Blood didn't betray me, expectations did. That sentence took me years to understand. Not because I was naive, but because the people who hurt me the most never raised their voices. They just kept taking. And if you've ever felt exhausted by the very people who call you family, stay with me, because this story doesn't end with revenge. It ends with something more dangerous. Before we continue, subscribe if you've ever been the strong one in your family. The one who gives, fixes, and stays quiet. This story might explain why you're tired. I didn't volunteer to be the strong one. It happened gradually. I was the listener, the mediator, the backup plan. If something broke, emotionally or financially, I was the solution. And the strange part? No one ever thanked me. Because help that's expected stops feeling like help. It becomes entitlement. Retention trigger. And here's the part one didn't realize until much later. Whenever I tried to speak about my own struggles, the responses were familiar. You'll get through it. You're strong. Other people have it worse. They weren't cruel, just uninterested. My pain wasn't denied, it was minimized. And that taught me a dangerous lesson. If your suffering doesn't disrupt the system, it doesn't matter. People think being dependable is a strength, but no one talks about the loneliness it creates. When you're always okay, no one checks on you. When you always show up, no one asks if you're tired. And slowly, your needs disappear from the conversation. But the moment that broke, everything didn't come from exhaustion. On a good day, I finally said no. Calmly, respectfully, I can't help this time. The silence that followed wasn't concern. It was disappointment, not in the situation. In me. That's when I realized I wasn't loved for who I was. I was valued for what I provided. I didn't argue, didn't explain. I just stopped. Stopped oversharing. Stopped rescuing. Stopped being emotionally available on demand. And something interesting happened. The calls slowed. The warmth faded. The effort disappeared. And that hurt, though I confirmed everything. Walking away didn't feel empowering at first. It felt wrong. Family teaches you that distance equals betrayal. But no one teaches you that self-abandonment is worse. I learned that guilt is often the reaction of people who benefited from your silence. Peace didn't announce itself. It arrived quietly, in sleep, in clarity, in not dreading phone calls. For the first time, my energy belonged to me. And that peace felt like revenge. Not because anyone suffered, but because I stopped suffering in private. Here's the truth no one warns you about. Family can love you and still take too much from you. Walking away isn't hate. It's honesty. Distance isn't punishment. It's self-respect. And healing doesn't begin when people understand you. It begins when you stop explaining your worth. Healing doesn't begin when people understand you. It begins when you stop explaining your worth. Because the moment you stop explaining, you realize something uncomfortable. The people who truly valued you never needed the explanation in the first place. Everyone else, they were listening only to decide how much more they could take. For a long time, I thought I needed to be clearer. Clearer about my limits. Clearer about my pain. Clearer about how much I was giving. I believed that if I could just find the right words, they would finally understand. But clarity was never the problem. The problem was this. Understanding me didn't benefit them. So I stopped explaining. Not because I was healed, but because I was tired of performing my pain. For people who were comfortable ignoring it. When I stopped explaining, something strange happened. When you stop explaining your worth, you start noticing how much of your life was built around proving it. Proving you were reliable. Proving you were loyal. Proving you were grateful. I had mistaken over-functioning for being loved. But love doesn't require you to disappear. So I started asking myself new questions. Not how can I help, but do I want to? Not will this upset them, but will this cost me? Those questions changed everything. The hardest part wasn't creating distance. It was sitting with the fear that came after. The fear of being labeled selfish, ungrateful, cold. When you stop overgiving, people who benefited from your exhaustion will call it selfishness. But here's what I learned the hard way. If your kindness only matters, when it hurts you, it was never kindness they wanted. It was an access. When I stopped reaching out, I noticed who filled the silence. Some people didn't. Days passed. Weeks passed. No concern. No curiosity. Just absence. That absence told me the truth. That words never did. I have been maintaining relationships that couldn't survive without my effort. Here's the truth that took me the longest to accept. Not everyone who shares your blood shares your responsibility for your well-being. Some people will call your boundaries distance. Some will call your silence disrespect. Some will call your healing selfish. But what they're really reacting to is the loss of access. Family betrayal doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it looks like expectation without care, support without gratitude, love that only works when you're available. And that's the part no one prepares you for. The moment you stop explaining your worth, you discover who is listening to understand and who is listening to benefit. Walking away isn't abandoning your family. It's refusing to abandon yourself. Distance isn't punishment. It's self-respect in its quietest form. And healing doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't announce itself with closure or apologies. It arrives the day you stop overgiving, stop over-explaining, and finally choose peace over approval. Moral lesson. Your value is not measured by how much you sacrifice. It's revealed by what you protect. So let me ask you this. Have you ever felt emotionally drained by family expectations? And what did choosing peace cost you? Or are you still paying that price right now? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might be the reminder someone else needs to stop explaining their worth. Family betrayal doesn't always come from hatred. Sometimes it comes from comfort, from people getting used to your silence, your sacrifice, your availability. And the moment you stop explaining your worth, everything changes, not because they suddenly understand, but because you do. Walking away isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Distance isn't rejection. It's self-respect. If this story sounded familiar, if you've ever been the strong one, the fixer, the one who held everything together, then know this. You're not alone, and you're not wrong for choosing peace. Subscribe if you're learning to set boundaries without guilt. Share this with someone who's quietly carrying too much. Your support keeps these stories alive. I'll see you in the next video.